Hello everyone and welcome to another fun game from the Hanova tournament of 1926. We said in the previous video regarding the tournament that it was basically a celebration of the 50 years of that chess club, and that they invited some very strong players like Aaron Nimzowitsch and Akiba Rubinstein, who won the tournament. Nimzowitsch won, half a point ahead of Rubinstein, and I said that I was going to check out some of the other games from the tournament. If they will be nice, that I will show them, and this is one of the games. Nimzowitsch, the winner of the tournament, played against Jacques Mises, a very well-known figure in the chess world back then. Even if you remember, during the Capablanca saga, I mentioned that he organized the 1913 tournament of San Sebastian that Capablanca won, to everyone's surprise. A strong player, definitely one of the local German masters, and he was one of the first people in 1950 to receive the actual title of Grandmaster once they came up with it. But yeah, okay, let's check out the game, and it features a line called the Nimzowitsch line, which is cool, as Aaron Nimzowitsch is playing. So we have c4, Nimzowitsch goes for the English opening, e5, we have knight to c3, knight to f6, and now knight to f3. We have knight to c6, the four knights of the English, and now pawn to e4, the Nimzowitsch variation of the four knights of the English, bishop to b4, and now pawn to d3. We have pawn to d6, g3, and bishop back to c5. Here Jacques wants to remaneuver his pieces to go after the f2 pawn. So of course bishop g2, you have to be ready for that. Knight to g4, and it is now as of move 7 that this move has, or rather this position has never been repeated again. And for good reasons. Black doesn't really have a good plan here. Here just castles guarding the f2 pawn, and now you really don't have anything better than to bring the knight back. So knight to g4, I'm going to show you why. Bishop g5, and now what are you doing with the black queen? Okay, you could always go back knight to f6, but then you'll just feel silly. So you're going to bring the queen all the way to d7, or you could bring this knight to e7. But basically, if you play queen here, then you play e captures on f5. Now the queen has to capture, the bishop cannot capture, and if queen captures, now you play knight to e4. And how are you playing this with black? You can go bishop b6, and now pawn to h3, knight to f6, now knight to h4. You go after the black queen, queen e6, now knight captures on f6, and you completely mess up black's pawn structure. Queen to h5 is coming. You could start with bishop d5, attack the black queen, queen e7, queen h5, check king to d8, and let's say knight g6, and black resigns. So this is probably what would happen. So best would be after queen to d7 and e captures on f5, not to go for queen captures, but rather h6, and now maybe continue with some bishop to d2, and maybe black can play this, but it's just very weird having both f5 and h6 played. So bishop g5 definitely takes advantage of this early f5 move. But okay, Nimzowitsch went for knight to d5, we have pawn to h6, and now this is really over pushing it. f5 and h6 just creates too many holes in black's camp, and of course Aaron tries to take advantage of that. E captures on f5, bishop captures, knight h4 with tempo, attacking the bishop. Also the g6 square is being pressured. We have bishop back to e6, and now he just brings the knight all the way to g6. If you're wondering why not keep the bishop on this diagonal, well, the knight is hanging. We're just going to capture the knight. So the bishop has to keep an eye on the knight. So bishop e6, knight to g6, and rook to g8. And already you can feel that you haven't really done all that much with black. You're not castling kingside. The knights here are just monsters, and Aaron plays pawn to h3, knight f6, and now bishop to e3. We have bishop captures on d5, removing one of white's attackers. C captures, knight to d4, and now even pawn to f4. We have queen to d7, hoping to castle queenside, but of course Nimzowitsch will not allow it. Here it comes, pawn to b4. Beautiful move, as if you capture, then the knight on d4 will be undefended. For example, bishop captures, pawn captures, pawn captures. Now you capture on e5, you attack the queen, and next move you win the knight with bishop captures on d4. So after b4, the bishop has to remain on this diagonal, but still f captures on e5, d captures, and knight captures on e5. Attacks the black queen. queen to e7, and now knight to c4, putting pressure on the bishop, but also defending your bishop on e3. And the problem is you can't castle queenside. If you castle queenside, then knight captures with check, and after pawn captures, again, the knight on d4 just hangs for free. So here, king to d8 was played by Jacques, sort of prevents this tactic, because now if you play knight captures, queen captures on e3, a nice Zwischenzug would win the game for black after a captures on b6. So instead, after king d8, pawn to a4, Aaron starts pushing those queenside pawns, rook to e8, putting pressure on the bishop, and king to h2. As long as the knight defends the bishop, you don't have to worry. We have knight to e2, and now comes pawn to d6. Here, there are a lot of other moves. You could play like pawn to d4, you no longer have to worry about this diagonal, or you could play queen captures on e2, just trade, but Nimzowitsch has a different idea. Pawn to d6. He wants to weaken black's queen side here, and at some point he will recapture on d6 with the knight. So c captures on d6, and now rook to e1. Now he's offering a trade, which of course Jacques goes for. Bishop captures, rook captures, but now he falls for bishop to g1 with check, and the queen will pick up the rook. But of course Nimzowitsch saw all of this. Queen captures on g1, queen captures on e2, and on queen to d2. If you're wondering about the d3 pawn, you can't capture this ever. Because knight captures on b7, and there is no move for black. Whatever you do is simply insufficient. Let's say king to c8, you're just going to play queen to c5 with check. If king to b8, rook to c1, and there's no defense against checkmate. So instead, after rook e1, queen to d2 was played, and now we have knight to c4. Attacking the black queen, queen captures on b4, giving up this pawn to advance the a pawn to victory. Pawn to a6. Now you can't capture because the rook would hang. So here, rook to c8 was played, and it's a very delicate position where Nimzowitsch is of course much better, but you have to be very, very precise in order to win this. So feel free to pause the video and win the game for Nimzowitsch while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on not rushing it. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is rook to b1. If you play a captures on b7, then black just gives back some material. Bishop captures, queen captures, and yes, you are better, but you will have to work for your meal very, very hard. Instead, rook to b1 was played, which I'm sure all of you found, and now queen to a4. And now, okay, now you capture on b7. A captures on b7, rook to b8, and now queen to c5. Brings the queen into the attack. Now you have to worry about ideas like queen to f8, also maybe in some lines even queen to c8 check. You might even give up the queen, so rook to c7 defends, queen to d4 with check, knight to d7, and now queen captures on g7. There is no rush to checkmate the black king. First, Aaron will gobble up all of the kingside pawns. Rook to c5, we have queen to h8 check, king to c7, and now queen captures on h6. And again, not much to do about that b7 pawn. It's sufficient, nothing more to be done here. We're going to show why this loses, but even faster was queen e6 check, and after king to d8, rook f7. That was the cleanest way to do it. If queen captures, defending checkmate, then you have queen e7 check, and now look at this: king to c7, rook, queen captures with check, king to d8, queen to g5 check. If you go here, then queen to e7 is checkmate, so king c7, and now queen to a5 is a very nice checkmate. But Nimzowitsch played rook to f8 check. It was also enough. So if you guys are interested, what would happen is after knight captures, the rook is no longer defended. Queen captures, king f7, queen to f4 with check, king to g8, and now b8 queen. Nimzowitsch would have two queens on the board, and of course very quickly end the game, as there's really no good way to defend this. So both lines work. This is the one that Nimzowitsch chose, and it was more than enough. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you haven't seen the previous video, I do suggest you check it out. But just in case, yes, Nimzowitsch won the tournament, half a full point again ahead of the legend Akiba Rubinstein. So I'm gonna check out Akiba's games from this tournament as well. If there's a really nice one, we will check it out as well. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't seen the previous video where I actually played a classical game, also do check out that one. A lot of cool moves were played played there. I would like to thank Richard Karp, Laurent Andre Giannisini, Ravishing Reptiles YouTube, Kathleen Northorpe, and Yoon Young for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.